Hi everyone, I am Santosh Kumar DK, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Canara Engineering College. In this video, we are going to discuss Big Data Analytics 17 CS 82, a course update from the 8th semester. The study material regarding this course is available on my site, which is highlighted over here. Let's see the syllabus, what we are going to cover throughout this course. First, initially we start with the discussion of Hadoop in the first and second module. In first module, we'll see the core components of Hadoop, that is HDFS and MapReduce. And the second module will discuss some tools related to the Hadoop, that is Yarn, Hive, Pig, HBase, Scoop, Flume. All these tools we are going to discuss in brief. And then the main component, one more component of Hadoop is Yarn. So on that we will discuss more in this module. Then we will see how to manage the Hadoop using the Apache Ambari tool, and we'll see some administrative procedure on the Hadoop. Then in the third module, we'll see some brief introduction of business intelligence concepts and data warehouse, data mining, and data visualization. And in the fourth module, we'll see some decision tree algorithms, regression, and the ANN, artificial neural network, and cluster analysis and association rule. In the fifth module, we'll discuss about the text mining, where we'll see the algorithm of Navibyte and SVM. And we'll also discuss about web mining and social network analysis. A brief introduction of all these will be discussed in the fifth module. The first two modules, what I have marked over here, is going to be covered with a textbook by Douglas Edline. The textbook title is Hadoop 2 Quick Start Guide. Learn the essential of big data computing in the Apache Hadoop 2 ecosystem. This textbook is going to cover first two modules, and the remaining three modules are from the textbook by the author Anil Maheshwari, Data Analytics, first edition from the McGraw-Hill Education. Before getting into the course, because the course title starts with the Big Data Analytics, but where we did not get an opportunity to define what is Big Data Analytics, so I better choose the opportunity to discuss what is big data. Then I'll get into the curriculum. So first, let's define the big data. The big data is a huge data. The name itself tells it is the huge data. Like when we take a data, there are three types of data we can take it from the world. One is structured data, one more is the semi-structured data, the next one is the unstructured data. What does it mean? The structured data, what we have already known from our relational database system, RDBMS, which you have studied in the 5th semester. So the data which stores in terms of rows and columns is called as the structured data, which directly comes from our RDBMS. The semi-structured data is a data which is stored in the XML format. Most of the cases, the online documentation and all will come with the semi-structured data. The next is the unstructured data. The unstructured data is the one which is not in any standard format. Like it will be stored in text files, it will be stored in the format of log files, it will be in terms of images, videos and all. So the quantity of the semi-structured and unstructured is huge, and compared to our structured data. Processing the structured data is very easy. We have already seen with the RDBMS, we have many tools from the different companies like MySQL, we are having Microsoft SQL, we are having Oracle, we are having many tools like that, RDBMS tools. But when it comes to semi-structured and unstructured, we are having around 90% of the data in the world belongs to the category of semi-structured and unstructured. and the structured data is only hardly 10% of the data. So how to handle this semi-structured and unstructured data, how to store it, how to analyze it, and how to bring some new ideas, or how to predict something new out of these semi-structured and unstructured data. That is what is the main challenge over here. So to define the big data with the help of Wikipedia definition, I'll go. Big data is an encompassing term for any collection of data set so large and complex that it becomes difficult to process using the traditional data processing applications. Please concentrate on the term traditional. So the traditional data processing, already we are having RDBMS softwares, many softwares we are having which are not capable of handling or processing the big data, because they are not in the one format. They are in a different format. They are in, like as I have highlighted with the categories, structured, semi-structured and unstructured. Whenever you heard big data terms, the big data is mainly defined with 3 V's, that is volume. Of course, the name itself says that it is a big, it means the volume of the data is very huge. Huge in terms of, means we know up to terabytes, like we have used the hard disk in terms of terabytes, but the data available now is in terms of petabytes, exabytes, and it's going to be in terms of zettabyte also very soon. And very soon in upcoming next decade, it will be exabytes also. So we are in the world of now, like in our computer and all, we use a terabyte, but the data every day generated throughout the world is in terms of petabyte. And in a 1 month or 2 months, data generated throughout the world will be reaching to exabyte, and the accumulated of 1 year will be reaching to zettabyte. So we have huge data, like generating data everywhere. We have noticed that due to the digitalization, even the pandemic COVID-19 caused people to get into the digital world. Like those who are telling, no, I don't want to be into the digital world, they are also into the digital world right now. Like they'll be going with the online shopping, they'll be using the online applications to order the food, many groceries, many things. So again, they have to get into the digital payment also, like any wallets or payment methods we are using right now, like PhonePe or Google Pay or Paytm, like this. So these are going to generate the huge data. That is what we are talking about, volume. Next is velocity. The speed of the data generation is very, very high. If I take an example, like in a minute, there are 50 hours of video which is uploaded to the YouTube by the YouTubers. You can just imagine, in a minute, in a given 1 minute, they are going to upload 50 hours of videos to the YouTube. So it means, what is the total number of hours videos which is uploaded in YouTube for a given day? It will be very huge, and the velocity is very huge. And when you are getting a huge data in high velocity, again, it's very difficult to handle it and process it. And you know, like if you are going to upload any videos to YouTube, it's going to check for the copyright issues, like how it's going to process so fast, and so it is going to recognize, and it's going to even check for the content also. Like if you are going to tell it's for the kids and the content is not for the kids, like they are going to even verify with the help of machine learning algorithms and all. So that is, we need a higher complicated systems to analyze all these things. That is even with the velocity also. Next is the variety. That data is not only generated from one source, like I took an example of videos. Like if it goes to videos, like it is from the YouTubers, of course. Like all are using one or other format, might be MP4, might be FLV, might be some MPEG, like that, any formats they might be using. But that formats are not limited. That formats can go on based on the application they use. It is not only for YouTube. We are not only in the world of YouTube. We are there in the world of all the data. From IoT, we are generating the data. We have a lot of sensors which are going to generate. We are having satellites which are going to generate the huge data in terms of images and in terms of logs, in terms of even videos. They are going to capture and they are going to send it to the respective domains, and then we are having a lot of data which is generated by our mobiles. Like if I turn on my location, so if I forgot to turn it off throughout the day, if I'm going to travel from one place to another place, the complete data is captured by that location and it's going to be recorded. And if I take up our social media, in a given minute, how many tweets are being done, in a given minute, how many likes they are going to put it on the Insta, they are going to put it on a particular image on Facebook, particular issue on the Twitter. Like all these are from the different varieties, and it's not only from these. We are having very huge web servers and very huge servers in the banking system, retail and finance, insurance, healthcare. All these servers are also generating the huge number of logs, and this data is not in the one format. These are all from the different source. These are all in the different format. And the next term, before when the big data has been introduced, like people have started defining the big data initially, they started defining the big data only with the 3 V's. But right now, people used to define it with 6 V's. Some authors are also going to define it with the 7 V's. Let's discuss the remaining 3 V's. That is variacity. The variacity is kind of a uncertainty which is generated by the data. For example, if I take, it's going to create an ambiguity. For example, if I'm going to take up a mobile review, before buying any mobile, before buying any product, if I take up a car also, we are going to we are going to watch the review videos, we are going to see the reviews online. Like there, if you take up a particular mobile, if you got like, I'll go with the people are going to rate with the stars, or they are going to rate 1 to 5. Yes, if I take some XYZ company and consider I have rated it with a 4.5. So 4.5 rating for what in the mobile? Whether it is for the brand, whether it is for the design, whether it is for the processor, whether it is for the camera, or whether it is for the display clarity, or whether it is for the battery backup. Like this is going to create a ambiguity. The same product, what I have rated with a 4.5, another person can rate it with a 5. Or some other person can rate it with a 1 star or 1 point. Like this rating is going to create a ambiguity. So, but this is also one of the challenge of the big data. Next, variability. Variability is nothing but an inconsistency. The data is not consistent. The data can, in a given time, the data can be huge, or the data can be less also, because it's based on the situation. For example, if I take up the online traffic, if we take up, like in the peak hours, right now people have stopped going to office, but if you take up in the peak hours, when it goes to the normal traffic on the roads, on the peak hours traffic will be huge, and on the like after 10 o'clock to till noon, 12 o'clock, the traffic will be less. This is even in case of data generation also. It's not consistent. The data generation is inconsistent. And the value. So out of this data, whatever it is in terms of volume, velocity, variety, variacity, or variability, all these characteristics of data is going to give me a huge data to us. So what we will create out of it? What is the value of the data? For example, if you take up a data which is of not use, then you cannot go for the data analyzing. So what you can do? So you have to see what is the value of that data. If I'm going to take up this data, what value, what revenue I can generate out of this data? That is what we can define with a big data. That is with the 6 V's. The same thing I'm going to display with respect to the pie chart. So where you can see the data generated is from the main 3 V's. We can see that the data with respect to velocity, it is from the batch processing, or it's from the periodic processing, or near to real-time processing, or real-time processing. So the real-time processing is generating huge data in high velocity. And when it comes to the volume, we know that the data we measure in terms of bits, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes. I told you we are in exabytes, zettabyte, and yet to come etabyte. So these are all the data volume we are going to take, but already we are in the exabyte. Here I have not mentioned, but we are in exabyte. And next, the variety. So from which are all the sources we are getting. So one is from the marketing automation, customer management support, SMS, audio, video, web, photos, automated demand generation, mobile apps, social technologies, whatever the social apps we are using right now, all those are the big contributors for the big data. And if you take up the reports and table and database, these are all our traditional databases, RDBMS. Like they are the cores. Initially, it started from there, and then we started capturing the data from the different sources. The types of data we are going to get over here is one, as we have spoke already, it's a relational data. That is from, it might be from the regular tables or relations, or from the transactions. Like if I go with a financial organization, there we get this term called transaction every day, how many transactions they are going to do. And legacy data, if we are having any archive data. So these are all from the relational. Next, text data. We are having a blogs, we are having email, we are having many things from the web, right? Even we are having a picture, scientific research files. All these things are going to be from the web. Semi-structured data. I told you, semi-structured data is all about the documentation. We have seen any tool we use, it might be software or it might be a hardware device. For each, we are going to have a manuals. The manuals which we get in terms of hard copy is limited. We will not get complete details over there most of the time. So we'll be having online manuals where we'll be having many detailed discussions of each configuration, how to use it, how to configure it, everything. So that is what is given in the online documentation, which is mainly done with the help of XML files, which is a semi-structured data. Next is a graph data. Graph data is huge data, which is from the, we can take up from the medical field, which we may get it from the social network, which we may get it from the network. The graph data is going to contribute huge in terms of big data. Next is social network, as I told, tweets and all, and WhatsApp chat, what we do, and the likes, dislikes, and comments, what we do on Facebook and Instagram, and like that we are having many. Even our YouTube is also social network, where you can notice that if there is some live casting going on, where many people are commenting on the right side, and maybe you will get to know how many people are happy, how many people are not happy, how many people are against to it, how many people are their sentiments regarding that particular discussion. So that is what is the social network data we are going to get, which is like even it might be in the format of RDF. Next is live streaming data. Streaming data, it comes in the real time. So as I told, just casting on the YouTube is also streaming data. People are commenting on real time. So or else it is from the IoT devices. Like there is something going on in the weather, which is going to be captured by the sensors, and it's going to generate some weather. It's going to give inputs to weather forecast. Such streaming data which is generated by the IoT device, and that has to be handled in right time, because there is, we have seen the worst thing which has happened to the world was one is recently COVID-19, and before that there was a fire in the Australian forest. So these are they will get to know based on the temperature variation. I don't know about the COVID-19, but we are getting some inputs regarding the variation in the weather with respect to rain, with respect to cyclones, with respect to tsunami and all from the IoT devices, and that's why people are going to be warned before such things happen. At least they will get some 3 to 4 days to analyze, and they will be having time to shift the people who will be the victims of that natural disaster. So that has to be analyzed in right time. So for that we have to capture the real-time data from the IoT devices. So what we can do with this data? Yes, we have lot of data. It is not only from now. It is from the time the computer started, where we are going to started gathering the digital data. Before that, we had a non-digital data, but yeah, such data very rarely people started analyzing, and it takes a lot of time also because it is in non-digital format. We need human resources to analyze such a huge data and process it and come to a conclusion or decision. But when it is in terms of digital data, what we have to do, we can capture the data and we can put some algorithm in the high processing machines, and we can predict all these things, what all happening with the weather and what all happening with the, as we have seen, the pandemic and like many situations. So why now? Why they are concentrating on this? Because when it was initial, that time also that the data was there. It is not that data was not there in digital format. Like when the computers are started, like in 1990s and even 80s. But the thing is, that time the computation power costs us more. Even you have seen the computer cost, what was there like some 15 years before, is not there now, because it is the computer cost is getting cheaper compared to the even the smartphones what we buy, which was so costlier when it is initially launched. The smartphones are launched and the mobile phones are launched. Right now we are going to get the very good phone in some 10Ks. So that is the advancement in the technology, hardware technology, and that is going to create a new challenges and new paths for research and analyzing the data. And not only on the hardware part, on the software part, there is a lot of revolutions are happening and are going to happen also. Like not initially we know that we have to use the paid version of software, and later there is a very nice concept came into picture called open source. Like where we can be a user, we can be a contributor. It is not only we will be a user, we can also be a contributor. Right now, most of the people go with the open source software rather than with the proprietary softwares, because for that the proprietary software, we know like we have to pay a lot of the money, and like we cannot change, we cannot customize however we wish. But when it comes to open source, we can even contribute, we can customize, and we can change the system however we wish. So that is the main thing which made a very big difference in the big data. Like we had a data, that time we have to invest a lot of millions of billions of money to analyze what has happened, what's going to happen, what I can do with this data. But right now, because of the advancement in the hardware and advancement in the software frameworks and the tools, the existing data, whatever we are going to get in the world, can be analyzed, and we can analyze it faster also, because we are having a high computing systems. So you can notice the big data, whatever we are going to get. So we are having many disciplines which is connected to big data. One is the term big data, what we are discussing, and descriptive analysis is another field. Machine learning, which you have studied in 7th semester. Customer analytics, like whether the customer is happy, are we going to retain him, are we going to lose him? If we are going to lose that customer, what I can do so that I can attract him and I can gain him back, I can retain him back. And I'll discuss about this later. Big data analytics, so the complete data, whatever we are going to take, and based on the situation, based on the data, we are applying multiple algorithms, and will extract the outcome of it. And next is AI, and you can notice AI and ML are closely connected, because both are belongs to same category, but all these things are working on the same data called big data. And next is the data science. These are all the booming terms what you can get to know, like data science, AI, machine learning. Even there are terms called natural language processing. There are terms called SNA, social network analysis. These are all the trendy terms which works purely on the big data. But when it comes to big data, we need an architecture to store it. We need a mechanism to store it and to provide facilities to run all these type of varieties of applications. So for that, we are going to use Hadoop. There are many other tools also, but Hadoop is the open source tool, and which is having many advantages, which we will be studying, which we'll discuss in detail in the module 1 and module 2. We'll see some real-time examples that this big data is going to play. We know that these online shopping companies are going to learn from the way we are going to act in their site. Like for example, if I'm going to search for a mobile, of course it's going to predict and it's going to tell use the mobile cover and buy this screen guard also. Like that, if you are going to buy some devices, like the same patterns, it's going to check from the other customers and it's going to suggest. And you know, Amazon is going to make 38% of its revenue out of that suggestion. And similarly, if we are having Netflix, OTT services, not only Netflix, we are having Amazon Prime, we are having even Disney Hotstar. We have many like this. Like every service provider is now coming with their own OTT service, even it with Jio also. So there, by your watch history, by your search history, they are going to track you, and they will show you some videos, some movies, some suggestions based on even the news what you read from the G News, Google News, or from the InShorts or any online news articles. So what they are going to do is they are going to see your interest, what type of news you are interested, what type of videos you are interested, what type of audios you are interested, what type of movies you are liking. So whether it is a fiction, whether it's a drama, whether it's a fantasy, based on that, they are going to suggest you the videos. By that, they are making money. This suggestion system itself is going to bring them some revenue out of it. As I said, 38% of the revenue of Amazon is from this prediction and suggestions. And that is what I am going to tell. They learn our secrets. They are going to learn from my behavior, what I am doing on my shopping, what type of things I am interested, for whom I am shopping for. All those things they are going to learn. It's just like we may say, no, my data, I did not share any data in the internet, in the digital world. I am secure. No, nothing like that. I'll just give you a funny example that can we know if a woman is pregnant even if she does not want us to know? Yes, right? We can know it because there is some physical changes in her. By that we will get to know, yes, she is a pregnant lady. Right? 90% of the time, if she is young and she is married, yes, then we are going to have some more inputs to that. Yes, we'll be deciding she is a pregnant lady. That same way, even though we say we are not disclosing the data to the outside world, but we are in the digital world and we have left our footprints in the digital world, but we cannot tell that we are not sharing our secrets by wish or without your wish. Those companies, those websites are going to track you down what you are. So that is how this digital world is running. And even this data analytics is done with the help of in our elections, 2013, 2019 elections of India, and even in US election also, they are going to conduct. Everywhere, any election you take right now, this prediction is going to happen. This particular party is going to get a higher majority and all. Not whether which party is not going to get majority and what are the reasons. Everything they are going to analyze before the result, and it is 99% true also. What their predictions are there, that is 99% true. That is how these data are playing a major role in deciding the real-time situation. And some applications, just now I took a recommendation system which is used in the Netflix self-driving. Yeah, we have seen that self-driving cars are there in foreign, they have not implemented still in India, but they may come in future. How they are going to be used, how they are going to drive itself. Those cars, how they are going to drive itself based on the sensors. They'll be having plenty of sensor. They'll be having a route map. They'll be having a dedicated routing software in them, and that will be having a dedicated map system. And to capture the vehicles moving around the particular car, they are going to use the sensors. And you have seen many ads which are from the best world's best car companies are going to show many ads that even though if you are not going to apply a brake, they have some system which is going to capture the if there is any vehicle in opposite. Based on that opposite vehicle speed, it's going to sync. Your vehicle is going to sync with that speed, and it's going to move with the same speed by following the safe distance. Some type of examples you have seen. And text cognition. Text cognition is one thing where we are going to recognize our signatures and all. We have you are aware that in banking system still we are going with the signature on the hard paper. So that if you are going to give it to a machine, so it has to recognize whether you are the authorized person who has signed it or not. So it is not only that, like we have many literature, especially in India, we have multiple languages. Each language has its own literature, and to recognize that, so we need a text cognition. And we have codes and all there. We are having plenty of case files, and by reading those case files, as I said, just there are certain situations which are meeting the current issue and which has happened in the recent years or in the past history. What was the solution which has come up with those lawmaker in those days, and what we can do with the current? So that we can recognize by reading the existing case histories, but that is in the hard copy. What we can do, so we can convert it to digital, let the machine will come up with a conclusion, and for the current issue will match up with the conclusion, and we'll check for the feasibility. That time the situation might be different, current the situation is totally different, so we have to see the feasibility. Based on that they can take a decision. But for reading all those case histories, articles and all, if it goes with a manual thing, it takes lot of time. But what if you go with a automated system? The automated system will come up with a conclusion in a faster way. Let the current lawmaker or whomever is responsible for taking the decision, let them compare with the current situation issue and what was happened with the previous decisions, and let them compare and come up with the final decision. That is happening. That should happen, because otherwise you have seen like most of the cases that when it goes to legal things, they will tell it takes a lot of time. So why? Because like they need so much of research to do. It is not that they can take a decision in a given 1 minute and they can make some non-victim to victim. So that should not happen. That's why they are going to analyze the complete aspects and they will come up with a final decision. And the next is spam filtering. What will happen in Gmail especially? You have seen that some mails, even though it is from the authorized user, might be a friend, have sent it to some 100+ people, and that will go to the spam. Why? Because there are some filtering techniques they have applied. There are some algorithms they have written. Based on that, it's going to decide whether it's a spam or not. I told we are going to discuss about Hadoop. Hadoop is a framework which is from Apache. So what is Apache first? You might have heard about Apache from your previous semesters from 1 to 7. This is a term which will come whenever we speak about open source. Like this is a one organization which is going to contribute a lot to the open source projects, and Apache is a top level project, open source implementation of framework for reliable, scalable, distributed computing and data storage. It's going to give frameworks for most of the applications. So let's see what is Hadoop is. Hadoop comes with the elephant logo. That's why I have put elephant logo on the corner. Hadoop is a flexible and highly available architecture for a large scale computing and data processing on a network of commodity hardware. So I have highlighted some terms over here. That is large scale computing and data processing. What does it mean? We spoke about big data just now. We have introduced what it is. and how it goes, like what is the difficulty, what are the characteristics, all these we have seen. This is not analyzing and storing and retrieving are not easily done with the relational database systems, whatever we are having. I call it as a traditional database system. Traditional systems, whatever we are having right now, are not capable of dealing with this data. So we need a new framework, that is the Hadoop, and it is open source. As I said, open source means it is not only free, it is also, you can also contribute. If you think that something which is there in Hadoop, which is not there in Hadoop, where you can think you can improve the performance of the Hadoop by adding this particular add-on to the Hadoop, yes, it is possible. So that is why they are called as the open source. Anyone from the world can contribute to the open source frameworks. And the main key factor over here is commodity hardware. So, like whenever we think of analyzing and decision making, and by seeing the sci-fi movies, there are some supercomputers which will come into picture. Yes, that was the era before. Whenever you want to do any high performance computing decisions, you need a high performance computing systems. So where you have to invest lots of billions of money to buy a hardware itself. So for that, what they have done is the Hadoop is a one beautiful framework which works on the commodity hardware. It is not going to demand anything from the particular vendor. Like for example, if it is a supercomputer, that should be from this vendor, and the maintenance, everything will cost you more. But when it comes to commodity hardware, bring any assembled system and let it be your laptop also, or let it be your desktop also. It can be a small system which runs with hardly some 4 gigs to 8 gigs of RAM with some i3 onwards processor, where also you can configure the Hadoop, which will work flawless. But when it comes to the previous era where we have to buy a high-end server, then only these things are possible. This is why Hadoop is highly used in the industry. Even not only in the academics, we are going to discuss about it. Hadoop is used in the real-time industry right now. The milestone of Hadoop, we'll see who found it and what has happened with why we, even though whenever you take a term big data, the next term people will ask you about Hadoop only, because that is a framework. That is the one famous framework which is there in even in academics, research, and also in the industry. So the person, Doug Cutting, and his friend Mike Caffarella started working on the search engine called Nudge during the 2002. The search engines, like whenever we take a term search engine, again we will be calling it as a Google. Like even we don't know the other search engines right now, because that is fastest. So many reasons we have to go to the Google. Like we have many, like Bing and all, but we choose to go with the Google. So similarly, in 2002, Doug Cutting and Mike started with Nudge search engine, where they implemented this Hadoop concept, but they did not call it as a Hadoop. And Doug Cutting is the founder of Hadoop. And then Google has published some white papers, some research articles on the Google File System. GFS stands for Google File System. Again, in detail about all this we'll discuss in the next coming videos. And the MapReduce. So there is something called file system and programming part in the Hadoop, which is purely based on these two, GFS and MapReduce. By taking that, what Doug Cutting has done is he added these two concepts of GFS and MapReduce to his search engine Nudge. And in 2005, he launched the Hadoop, and that is acquired. It means Yahoo hired Doug Cutting, so indirectly it is acquired by Yahoo. Then in 2006, Yahoo gave this project Hadoop to the Apache for open source. Like, let everyone contribute to this, because it's a one nice concept. Let everyone work on it. Let everyone contribute on it. So here, by using the Hadoop in 2007, NY Time company converts 4 TB terabyte of images archive over 100 EC2 machines. EC2 is a term which you might have heard in cloud computing. So this comes with the EC2 is an instance which is created in the cloud, that too especially with the Amazon cloud. And Facebook launches its one of the plugin, we can call it as an add-on to the Hadoop, that is called as a Hive, to support QL support for Hadoop. Its QL is like it's kind of SQL type of language which is going to be supported in Hadoop. About Hive we will discuss in module 2 in detail what exactly it is, how it's going to contribute to Hadoop. We'll see in that. Next, the Yahoo started with computation, and it is the Hadoop has won the fastest sort computation in the year 2008 by sorting a terabyte of data in 3.5 minutes. By sorting the 3.5 terabyte of data in 3.5 minutes, just imagine. Terabyte, you have seen, most of you are having laptop, minimum it is with the configuration 500 GB or 1 TB. So you know the size of the data what you are going to store over there. So such a big huge data is sorted by the Hadoop framework in 3.5 minutes over 9-10 nodes. It means the Hadoop is going to support a network architecture, right? So it's going to have 9-10 data nodes. I'll discuss about these jargons, data nodes, name nodes in the next video, but time being, just for a milestone, you just remember this is what is the thing which has made Hadoop popular. Like it can sort the data of 1 terabyte in 3.5 minutes on 9-10 nodes. Next, the same thing on 1460 nodes, it is going to sort using at the time of 62 seconds, just 1 minute. So just 1 minute. And the petabyte, even we have not used the petabyte storage till today, right? So the petabyte storage, 1 petabyte of data is sorted in 16.25 hours on 3658 nodes. When I take a nodes over here, they are the data nodes. And in the meanwhile, 2008, the Cloudera has been founded, and Doug Cutting is recruited by Cloudera, and he is going to join the Cloudera in 2009. And even in 2009, Hadoop Summit has been conducted, and there were 750 research attendees who are going to contribute on this Hadoop were attended. This is how the Hadoop is started from the 2002 to 2009. Right now it is with many versions, like it started with 1.0, right now it is with the version 3.3 as I have seen. Next, what this Hadoop includes, why it is so popular? Because it is having main 4 components, and these components, as I said, we will discuss in detail in the module 1 and module 2. First, it is having some common libraries to support the analytics. It is going to have, just like you are aware, like in our programming languages, we are having predefined libraries, right? So packages, which is going to support our, which is going to easy our job of programming. Like there are many things we need not to code it. There are libraries are there, just make use of it. Next, we are having something called HDFS, Hadoop Distributed File System. This is the one which is responsible for storing the big data. So it is going to sit on the current operating system, whatever you are going to use, and it's going to create its own the file system, and that file system is responsible for storing the huge data, how it stores, how it retrieves, and what are the things it's going to create, how it's going to handle when there is a failure. Everything we'll discuss when we are discussing HDFS in detail. Next, we are having Hadoop Yarn. Yarn stands for yet another resource negotiator. It is started with the Hadoop 2.0 version. In Hadoop 1.0 version, resource manager was there, and Yarn has come into picture after Hadoop 2.0. So Yarn is responsible for mainly scheduling. It is a mini OS, mini operating system on the Hadoop. So which is mainly responsible for scheduling the resources, handling the resources, storing and retrieving the data from HDFS to the outside world and outside world to the HDFS. This is the intermediate layer between the other applications and the HDFS, which I'll show you in the next slide. And there is something called Hadoop MapReduce. It is a programming model. It's a programming paradigm for the Hadoop. Like these are purely coded in all the complete Hadoop is coded in Java. It's built on Java. So Hadoop MapReduce supports Java programming where you can you can code it for any libraries or any prediction or any analytics you want to do with the help of Java. It also supports the other languages also. It has language integration like Python it's going to support and other languages also it's going to support, but it is purely coded using the Java. And the storage part of the Hadoop is called as HDFS, and the programming part of Hadoop is called as a MapReduce, and the mini OS where it's going to manage the resources and schedule the resources is managed by the Yarn. These are all the three main components. Let's see the brief stack of Hadoop. So what all it covers. We have seen the lower architecture in the stack, that is HDFS. I have told it's going to be responsible for storing the huge data. Like how it stores, we'll see later. Just I'm giving you a brief introduction of the Hadoop stack. And I told you Yarn and MapReduce. Yarn, as I said, it comes with a version 2 onwards. Before that, it was only MapReduce and with a resource manager. They are responsible for handling the resources. Next, might be you have noticed when I'm discussing about the syllabus of the course, I mentioned something called Zookeeper, right? So Zookeeper, Ambari, these are the terms which is going to manage the Hadoop. So Zookeeper is the one which is going to monitor the Hadoop health and all, like the name node and data node, whether they are active or they have gone down, and what to do. All these, the health of the Hadoop is maintained by the Zookeeper, and you can notice the all funny names over here. So I'll tell you the Flume, Scoop, Pig, Hive. I said about Hive when I'm discussing about Facebook in the milestone. The Hive is from the Facebook, and Mahout, again, it's a very big library for analyzing the big data. OZ and HBase. These are all the things we'll discuss in detail, except Mahout. We'll discuss all the remaining tools in the module 2. And we as a user, we sit on the top of it, and we will write many analytical or analyzing algorithms via any of these tools to the HDFS, which is where our big data is there, and we'll analyze it. And who are using this Hadoop? I said, like, industry is using the Hadoop, and you can get to know who are all the other companies who are using Hadoop in this link what I have displayed over here. Like the best companies in the world are using it. Like you might be aware of all these names. There is no other name which you can tell. I don't know this name. Like IBM, you know, HP, eBay, JP Morgan. It's a famous bank. Netflix, Intel, Twitter, Amazon. All these are all the users of Hadoop. It means if you are thorough with these things, you have a lot of market which is waiting for you. So in this video, what we have covered, just we have seen a brief introduction of big data. We have seen the brief introduction of how the Hadoop has came into picture, like duck cutting, how we started the life with the Hadoop, and right now he's with the Cloudera and is contributing more towards Hadoop. And there are many versions. I just shown you over there till 2009. After that, there are around 12 years of difference. There are a lot changes has happened in Hadoop and the respective supporting tools in it. And then we have seen the stack of Hadoop, and we have seen some components of Hadoop in very brief. So we'll discuss in detail in next coming videos on all these things. Thank you.